But otherwise, if you're not writing things down, or you're not even verbalizing them for that matter, it's like fog in your brain.
And when did you want to? How come you were looking? Uh, why did you want to write the memoirs that you did? Was
Uh,
it another type of therapy? Was it something that you while you're going through stuff, they were like, okay, if you were dealing with things, because some people do writing classes, some other people do other things, and that's why
mhm.
they. So, why did you do that?
Well, I did around the time, probably about 1998, maybe even earlier than that. I started becoming more and more interested in writing, and I took classes and I went to some conferences and whatnot. I think, and my first memoir was my childhood years, Once Upon a Kentucky Farm, and then my second one, and I got that published. And then my second one was Bar Brothels and Bombs in the Night, and that's my Vietnam one. As I started writing one and then the other, it became clearer to me that one of the things I was trying to do was, uh, I think, trying to put some of those ghosts to rest. I think that looking back on it and being a therapist, that if we're going to heal from an issue, first we have to acknowledge it to ourselves and be honest. Then we got to share it with a higher power, perhaps. Then we have to tell somebody else. It might be a sponsor in a 12-step program, or a counselor, a therapist, um, and talk about it. So first you have the thinking, and then you have the talking, which involves emoting and re-experiencing some of the feelings, or the feelings about the process. But I think another step, which I mentioned earlier about writing, helps congeal things, is to write. That is another extension of that process of healing, I think, for me anyway. And so as I started writing, I said, yeah, I want to write those. And I focused, or thought I was writing it to help other people, which is still true, but I think more than not, I wanted to write for myself, my own healing. And then once it's written, of course, it's out there for other people.
Right. How long? How did you? I assume you self-published this.
Yes.
So okay.
Yeah, I had been, as I said, doing classes and conferences and things for a while, before COVID, excuse me. And I had the manuscripts basically roughed out or drafted. But I'd been putting out feelers for agents and whatnot before COVID came along, and I wasn't getting a lot of responses. Now, partly because I hadn't really polished them that well, but during COVID, sitting around, I decided that I wasn't going to live forever. I wasn't even sure I was going to survive COVID, for that matter, that whole period. I suspect that's true for other people, and it was very traumatic in that sense. But I decided to get off the pot and do something. So had a close, I call her a friend, who's an editor, and I had her edit my first book, and then I found a publisher and get it published, and I did that almost immediately for my second book, the Vietnam memoir, within a year, and got it published. I'm working on my third one now, but I'm not in so much of a rush because uh, I want to do a better job, I guess. I mean, as anyone, you get better and better at what you're doing over time. And so I think that I'm not in any hurry. I just want to do the best job I can on the third one. However, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it was just trying to understand because it's a lot easier to write these days and get books
Yeah.
published than it was 20 years ago or 30
Oh,
years ago,
yeah.
or even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I had my book, I had self-published it. I didn't have to have word, and I own all the words to it. When you have somebody who publishes your book for you and pays you money for it, you no longer own that information. And
Hmm.
and people need to realize that. That's why self-publishing is so good, is you can now turn it, I know yours is about Vietnam and stuff, but for people like me, when I write stuff, I create courses from it. And that's which, if I sold those rights, I could not do that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, self-publishing gives people a lot more freedom than used to be in the past. There was initially with self-publishing how would I say? I don't know if it was a stigma. The traditional publishers didn't look too well upon self-publishing, so there was a stigma that was first attached to self-publishing. It's like those books aren't as good as, or they have not been vetted, or blah blah. That's not necessarily true, but there's a whole gamut of quality of books out there. I mean, some are excellent. I wouldn't say all of them are at the same level, but you know, there's a lot more inform. I mean, there are more people publishing, a lot more information out there, so it makes it easier for people to find something they really want or really need or like, and that's a good thing about self-publishing.
Right. But and the negative thing about it is because there's so many more books and there's so
Oh, yeah.
much, and
The
it's
competition, the
yeah.
marketing, and the competition is horrendous. That's the piece I don't like.
Yeah, because I was talking to somebody, I'm like, in my, like, if you write it, I'm in the mortgage industry, so I wrote a book about financial freedom, building personal wealth through home ownership. Yes, I got number one in mortgage and real estate category, which is good,
Mhm,
but the issues still people have to find it. People have to read it. I use it for something else. I give it to my clients. I give it to other people's clients. It helps them. I give it to kids. I give it away because
mhm,
it's all about education, and that's give because there is nobody talking about in college or in high school how to buy a home, all that kind of stuff. They don't talk about that. They
mhm.
don't talk about how to how to make sure you have money in your account, right? Your checkbook account, not